Hi everyone, Mikali here, and today I will be showing you the part 2 of my cosplay design breakdown series. I'm kind of in a rush, so this will not be as in-depth as the Firekeeper one, but it's gonna be a double feature. So on one hand we're gonna have Kazuma, and then we have Aqua from the anime Konosuba. This will be a duo cosplay. Chapter 1 will be about Kazuma, and Chapter 2 will be about Aqua. But if you're interested to know everything about both, I suggest you watch the entire video because I might do some cross-referencing. But yeah, I think that's it. Let's get right into it. As you can see here, I already finished the mood boards. I will not walk you through it, but they're also not as detailed as Firekeeper. So, let's get started. The most important part is obviously the main reference, front, side and back. For this, I actually found some really good official arts which show Kazuma from all sides. I also made sure to get some detail shots of the binding of the little crisscross stitch pattern on the neckline, as well as the gems of the cape. I also made sure to get some references of his little sword and how exactly the wig could look like. Yeah, Again, this is not the most detailed cosplay. I also made sure to include references of different poses. So, for example, I know if I look up here, I can see that the sleeves are entirely grey, and it's a normal sleeve and a raglan or something like that. So yeah, I also included a reference of his outfit before he got his adventurer outfit, like the tracksuit he wears in our world before he dies, as well as in the first few episodes before he buys his adventurer outfit. Because I'm also going to reference the fact that he's not from the world of Konosuba when I'm getting to the material guide. So here we have my beautiful sketches. Since again these outfits aren't as detailed, I've decided to only paint the front side because the back view is basically the same, and I also found some really good reference pictures for the mood board, so I don't necessarily need to draw out the back side. So we're gonna start from the top and work our way to the bottom. Obviously we need a wig, and we need a cape with some gems, a t-shirt or a tunic depending. You could also make like the gray thing a undershirt and the white part like a tunic over the gray shirt. But I do think if I look at the references, it looks connected. It looks like it's the same piece. Then we're gonna put on a belt over our shirt. We need a pair of pants that kinda looks like a trainer. Some boots, and of course his little sword. For the materials, now this is where it kind of gets interesting, and where I want to talk more about the fact that he's from the modern world. Now, for the cape, I would suggest getting Waldkloden, which in English is pretty surely called boiled wool. Now, I'm not sure, but if I look at this might be it. I would suggest going for boiled wool because the cape does look like your typical cape or coat, and it's a warm material, and I think it looks very like it could fit in a fantasy kind of setting. Now we're gonna be very basic for the shirt. I would just take cotton jersey. Now, jersey might not be the most fantasy-esque and high fantasy medieval kind of fabric, but again, when he gets to the other world, he does wear a tracksuit, which is also like a jacket, and the sweatpants, which is also out of jersey. So I think we can justify just sewing a normal t-shirt out of white cotton jersey. I would still go for cotton because there's this heaviness to the design, this heaviness to the shirt, and I think a other material like rayon might be too lightweight for that. The gray parts I would also make out of cotton jersey, just as simple as to keep those materials the same. But yeah, I think it makes more sense for a character from the modern world to wear a t-shirt out of cotton instead of like a linen tunic, more like a jersey t-shirt. For the little ribbons in the neckline, I'm probably gonna go with either faux pleather or just a little pleather strip and either glue it on or just like sew it with 1 or 2 hand stitches. Same goes for the belt. I would also make the belt out of pleather. Now for his pants, there's actually 2 options I really like. Again, I'm always referencing this tracksuit because he's just a modern guy in a fantasy world. So I think the fact that his clothing is a little bit out of place isn't too bad. It might actually fit. So for the pants, since they do look like sweatshirt, like sweatpants of a tracksuit, I would either go for like real sweatshirt fabric or again like cotton jersey, simply because maybe using sweatpant fabric will get hot. If you consider wearing this cosplay during summer. And then we're almost at the end. For the shoes, I'm suggesting the same brown pleather as for the belt. And for a sword, I suggest using EVA foam. Maybe use like a little steer rod or PVC pipe in the middle so that it doesn't look too wobbly while working with it. But yeah, that's already everything you need to know about the materials that I would choose. Which already gets us to part 2, which is Aqua. Now, I will be doing Aqua. Obviously, I'm not wearing Kazuma and Aqua. This is a duo cosplay. I do this in a team. I do this with my partner. So, yeah. But for Aqua, I think we need to be a little bit fancier. Now, if you don't know the lore or the story of Aqua, basically Aqua is a goddess. Unlike Kazuma, who's just a guy who died and got isekai'd, Aqua is actually a water goddess. So I think we need to be a little bit more specific with materials and how everything looks together. But first, let's look at the references. Again, front, back. Here I especially tried to look up as many references for her hair as possible, because I already know that this wig is going to be pretty hard to do. So I wanted to get like the angles from the side and from the back, and to see the gradient that the figures use, for example. I also have some detail shots of additional ribbons and the bow and stuff like that usually gets kind of lost in her design. I'm also going to do her staff and this floaty kind of shawl that floats around her sometimes. But yeah, as you can see, I mostly focused on her hair and her neckline and stuff like that, because that's where the most details of her design come together. Which already brings us to her little sketch. Obviously, we're gonna need a wig. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it yet. I have 2 blue wigs. I might just combine them, but I'm probably going to dye the wig a gradient myself. And I do plan to make the little hair knob thingy she has like detachable so that I can screw it on and off. If there's any tutorial or any part of either of these 2 cosplays, interested to know how I do them or what I'm planning to do, please leave a comment. I'll try to make as many tutorials as possible, or rather, make as many tutorials as possible that you actually want to see. I always find it very hard to guess what's going to be interesting to you, so please leave a comment so that I know what to record. Anyway, then we go to the hairpin, these little 3 droplets, the spiky necklace. So the spiky necklace is this one here. Then we also have the normal necklace, which is like the ruffled one up here. and the bow. So those are the 3 pieces I talked about with a lot of details on her neck. Then we have her top, the arm sleeve, detached sleeve situation thing here, the skirt, the petticoat. I'm also gonna sew a pair of safety pants because the skirt is very, very short, which is not noted here. I could also just buy one, but I think I'm gonna sew one in a matching dark blue fabric so that it doesn't look as out of place. Then we have the overknees as well as the boots. And then we have the floating shawl, ribbon thingy, whatever, and the staff. And that's already the whole design breakdown. So, let's swap back to material guide. So for the hairpin, I am thinking of using like 3 acrylic balls in different sizes and just painting them, maybe even on the inside so that's still kind of shiny. But I am not too sure yet. I might also just 3D print them. Have to see if I can actually like drill holes in the acrylic ones so that I can screw it in and out, but if not, I'm gonna 3D print them. Then we have her ruffled, her little pleated necklace. Now, I would use a satin ribbon for the middle part that's not see-through, but for the see-through thing, I think I'm gonna go with organza. So organza is a sheer and lightweight fabric that still holds its shape very nicely. So if you're actually gonna ruffle it, as you can see here, the ruffles keep their shape and they stand up very nicely. Then we have her spiky necklace. For that I am probably white sateen, so like white cotton satin, simply because I think satin looks very nice. I like the shimmer of it, and I especially think that this little shininess, this fancy shine that it has, would work really well for the goddess image and the priestess image that Aqua has. So I would use this cotton satin, and I would use cotton satin instead of like rayon or viscose or anything like that, because it's heavier. And I think for the spiky necklace part, a heavier fabric makes more sense, because it's gonna keep the shape nicer, and I also like that it has more weight, so it's gonna lay it down flatter and not like fly off with every little movement. For the edges, I would just use bias tape, bias binding, dark blue one. So yeah. Now for the bow, I don't think I would use satin, simply because everything is gonna be satin else, and I don't like having the same structure for everything. What you could use is rayon, which does have a shine. As you can see in this reference picture, the bow is a little bit shiny. So I think you could use like a aqua colored rayon viscose kind of fabric. Something... You know what? I just saw linen rayon fabric. I think that would look really nice, because then it also has this kind of different texture to the rest, but it's still gonna be soft and it's still gonna look great. You would need to like add interfacing so that it keeps this bow shape, maybe even fill it with EVA foam just to keep it really stiff. So for the top and the skirt, I actually already bought my fabric, and I did buy this blue Duchess satin. Now, it's around this kind of thing, but it's blue. It's Duchess satin. Duchess satin is a very heavy satin with a lot of weight. As you can see, it is often used in like these gowns with maid of honor dresses, wedding guest dresses, very nice looking, elegant dresses, because it shines very nicely, but it's also heavy and it has a lot of stiffness to it. It is polyester, but that's fine. But yeah, something like this, simply because of the weight, because of the shininess and the elegance of this Duchess fabric. I'm using the same one for the top and the skirt. For one of them I'm using the right side and for the other the left side, just so that it color matches really nicely, and one of them is shinier and darker and the other one is a little bit brighter and less shiny, which works fine because this is not the exact same color here. For all the details I'm just using bias binding in white and gold. The sleeves I would do out of the same white cotton satin as the necklace, so that it matches on one hand, and also that it also have this stiffness that the sleeves stand out and don't fall. For the petticoat I would go with a classic tulle. Now there's so many types of tulle, as you can see. Soft tulle, hard tulle, bridal tulle, whatever. It's cheap, it keeps the shape, it's great for petticoats. I personally went for a little bit of a stiffer one and not a soft tulle, just so that it really poofs the skirt out. But if you don't want it super poofy, you could also go for a soft tulle. And for the overknees, I am also gonna use some white jersey, as well as some gold one and dark blue one as binding. So I'm also going to use a elastic silicone gripper on the top of my thighs to keep them from flowing down all the time. So these are just very thin elastic strips with a silicone strip. Sometimes it's also a wavy one. That doesn't actually matter too much. That's just so that it stays up nicely and you don't have to readjust your overknees every 2 minutes. Shoes are going to be jersey as well. And I'm probably going to attach the socks to the shoes directly, so that's like one long part and I don't need to have many layers on top of each other. So for the shawl, I actually would also use organza, or you could also use chiffon, which is just a sheer and flowy and very nice shiny fabric. So as you can see here, we have a very nice pink chiffon. It's sheer, it's very elegant. I think that would suit really well because on the reference pictures you can kind of see through this shawl, and so I would use a transparent fabric like chiffon or organza. I already bought my organza because I saw some silk organza on sale, and I had to buy it because it's the perfect color match. So I'm basically just gonna use something like this and thread a very thin wire through it so that it keeps up the shape and so that I can shape it and wrap it around myself however I want. And for the staff, I would also either use EVA foam with a dowel with a PVC pipe in the middle for stability, or use a 3D printer, depending what is available to you. And again, I think it's very important to distinguish between Kazuma and Aqua with the fabrics because they have such different backgrounds. I wouldn't want to use a satin on like a modern world tracksuit wearing adventurer, and I wouldn't want to only use cotton jersey and modern fabrics on a water goddess priestess from a fantasy world. So I think You kind of need to differentiate these two and kind of work with that. I also think it gives a very nice like look to it if they stand next to each other and you can really see that they have different backgrounds and different classes and a different story to tell because they wear very different things in cut and style as well as material. I think having a material that supports a story is really important in this case. Kind of a short episode, very rushed. I am very busy at the moment. Have a nice time. Until next time. Bye bye.